Hello, and welcome to Conquering Finale. My name is Jason Lafredo, and today we are simplifying simple entry. I'm going to show you how to enter notes in simple entry using a MIDI keyboard and the laptop keyboard layout. Now, when using a laptop with simple entry, it's important that we make that the laptop keyboard shortcuts are set. So in order to do this, make sure you've got the simple entry tool selected. Go to the simple menu, choose simple entry options, and then edit keyboard shortcuts. And then the bottom section here where it says keyboard shortcut set, make sure that we're selected laptop shortcut table. All right, so that will make input with speedy entry much more friendly on a laptop keyboard. All right, and while we're here in the simple menu, just make sure that use MIDI device for input is also checked. All right. Now, once we have that set, we're in our simple entry tool, and you'll see that we've got a caret here. It's got a vertical purple line there, and sort of grayed out quarter notes in that first measure. And if we wanted to start entering notes somewhere else, we can just hold down the Option key and then click in any measure, whatever measure we want to start entering notes, all right? And then once you've got that caret selected, if you hold down Command and use the arrow keys, you can navigate around up and down, right or left, to get to the spot that you want to enter notes, all right? And incidentally, if we do have a note there and that note is selected and you don't have the caret, if that's the last note in the measure, just press the right arrow and you'll get your cursor back or your caret back, all right? So entering notes in simple entry is fairly easy. This way, we're going to use the numbers on the laptop keyboard to correspond with these rhythmic values, right? So 5 for a quarter, 4 for eighth, 3 for 16th, etc., right? And from 64th all the way up to double whole note, which would be 8, right? And if you're eagle-eyed, you'll notice that in the simple entry tool palette, we do have a 1/28th note value here, and there's no number corresponding to that 1/28th note. To get a 1/28th note, we do have to actually click in the simple entry tool palette with the mouse to get that. All the other rhythms, we can just use these numbers, right? So if we press 4, and you'll see that the caret switches to an eighth note, 3, 5, 6, etc., corresponding to those rhythms. Once you have the rhythmic value selected that you want, all you have to do is just play a note on your MIDI keyboard, and it will get put in, and you can keep entering notes as long as you have that rhythm. And then to change the rhythm, just press a different number, and you get a different rhythm. All right. And we can even get chromatics. Just play the chromatic on your keyboard, and you'll get a chromatic. And if you want a different chromatic, like if I wanted A sharp here instead of B flat, you can use the backward slash key on the laptop, and that will change it to its enharmonic equivalent of A sharp. And then again, we'll change it back. So that's the backward slash to get an enharmonic, all right? And it's also pretty easy to enter chords in simple entry like this. Just play the whole chord all at once, and it will get entered there. You can make very short work of entering chords this way. And one other thing that's kind of neat about entering notes in simple entry in this manner is that if you get to this spot right here where I've got one quarter note left in this measure, if I were to actually choose 6 for a half note and play a chord, it would actually tie into the next measure, all right? And then again, it would tie into the next measure, all right? So that is fairly easy, entering notes in simple entry with a MIDI keyboard. If we want a rest, it's fairly easy. Just make sure that we have the rhythm selected that we want the rest. So if we want a quarter rest, we have a quarter note selected, and then just use 0 on the laptop keyboard to get a rest. And we can get any value of rest we want. All right. And in addition to using the 0, we could use Option Return, will also give us a rest. Shift Return will also give us a rest. And finally, Tab will also give us a rest. All right. So there's four different keys that you can use to get a rest, in case 1 or 2 wasn't enough for you. And also, if you have a note played and you wanted to turn that note into a rest, after you enter it, you can just press the R key, and it will turn that note into a rest. And then once it's a rest, if you press R again, it will toggle it back to note, but it will toggle it back to the note in the middle of the staff. So in this case, B in the treble clef. All right. Deleting notes is easy. You saw me do that before. Just hit the delete key, and it will just delete backwards until you're done. And if incidentally, if you arrow over to somewhere in the middle of the bar, like say I've got the G selected now and I press delete, the other two notes will get moved over to the left, all right? And then delete the last one and you'll get your caret back, all right? So that's deleting notes. Dotted notes are fairly easy. Just press the rhythm that you want. So I've got a quarter note selected, then play the note, and then press the period, and you'll get a dot. All right, so 5, note, period. And if we press it again, we'll get a double dot, all right? And then a note. So that's dots, fairly easy. And there is a way to do what I would call sticky dots, which will allow you to just, create the dotted quarter note and then just play the notes, and you'll get a string of dotted quarter notes. That's kind of handy in compound meters, which is why I have that 6/8 set up over here. So if I bring my cursor to the 6/8 section, I've got my quarter note selected, but instead of hitting period, if I do shift period, I'll get a sticky dot. And you'll notice that in the simple entry tool palette, the quarter note is selected, but the augmentation dot is also selected. So now when I play notes on my MIDI keyboard, I'll get a string of dotted quarter notes, all right? And shift period will turn that off. You can see that it got unselected, right? So shift period will turn it on, and shift period will turn it off. And you can toggle back and forth that way, all right? So that is dotted notes, period, and shift period. Ties are fairly easy. So if we just choose a rhythm and play a note, and then press the T key, we'll get a tie. And then we can add another note, all right? And again, enter the note, press the T. And again, if you press T again, it'll turn it off, right? So T will toggle the tie back and forth. And if you forgot to tie it and you've already entered the second note, we can tie backwards with Shift T, right? So Shift T will tie backwards from the selected note. And again, Shift T will toggle it on and off. And that is ties. And we can also do sticky ties as well. This is handy if you've got a string of whole notes that you need tied together, for example. Just choose the whole note value, which is 7. And instead of T or Shift T, do Command Shift T. And you'll see in the simple entry tool palette that the tie icon has been highlighted, which means that the note I play now will be a tied whole note. Right, so all I'm doing is just playing that E on my MIDI keyboard and getting the tied whole notes. And then again, to turn it off, Command Shift T will turn that off, and you can enter your last whole note. All right, so that is sticky ties. Command Shift T. All right, let me just get out of here. Delete some of this. Oops. And we'll start over. What about grace notes? Grace notes are fairly easy. Just enter a note. And to turn that note into a grace note, press Option G. And you'll see that it turned it into a grace note. And then you can enter another note. Enter the note, Option G, and then enter your next note. And you're good to go. And we can do sticky grace notes as well with Command G. So before you enter a note, press Command G. And you'll see that the grace note icon gets, the grace note tool gets highlighted here. And choose your rhythm, 8th note, so we'll do, and then just play the notes on your keyboard. And you'll get a string of grace notes, as many as you want, and then Command G will turn that off, all right? And then you can play your last note. And there you go. So you've got grace notes. Option G and Command G for sticky grace notes, all right? And then finally, let's talk about tuplets. In order to enter a tuplet in simple entry, you want to enter the note that has the rhythmic value of the triplet first, or the tuplet first. So if I want an 8th note triplet, I would enter an 8th note first. So I'm going to enter my 8th note, and then I'm going to press the 9 key, and that will start a triplet for me. And then all I have to do is just play the second and third triplets, second and third notes to finish out the triplet. All right, so again, 4 for the 8th note, play the note, 9, and then play 2 more notes, and you've got your triplet. And again, it depends on which note you start that you'll get that type of triplet. So if I were to start with a quarter note and press 9, I would get a quarter note triplet. All right. And we can do sticky triplets as well with Command 9. And you'll notice that the triplet tool gets highlighted again, which means that from now, if I just play notes, I'm just going to get a string of triplets. All right, easy enough. Now what if we don't want, and again, Command 9 will toggle that off. Now what if we don't want triplets? What if we want a different type of tuplet? Let's say we want 5/16 in the place of 4. So again, start it the same way, enter your 16th note, and instead of pressing 9, press Option 9, and you'll get the Simple Entry Tuplet Definition dialog box. Now this will allow you to define the tuplet however you want. So in this case, we're going to choose 5, and use current just means that it's going to use the current, the value that you just entered. So in this case, 16th note. So 5/16 use current. In the space of 4, use current 16ths, right? And click OK. And we've just created that 5 tuplet. All right. And there's a couple options I want to show you. You know how you can do like a swing triplet rhythm with quarter note, eighth note under one triplet bracket, right? Well, if you think about it, if you were to enter a quarter note first, right? If you were to press 9 from here, you'd get a quarter note triplet, which is not what you'd want, right? So the way that we would do this is with the Option 9 to pull up that entry tuplet definition dialog box. Use 3. Now instead of use current, we can actually change this to eighths in the space of 2/8. All right. So what this is doing, it's forcing Finale to define an eighth note triplet, despite the fact that you initially entered a quarter note. I hope that makes sense. And then you click OK, and it's created an eighth note triplet. So all you have to do is enter one more eighth note to get that swing rhythm. All right, so that's how you would do that swing tuplet in that manner. Okay, and there's one other option I wanted to show you that. So let's go back and let's say we're going to create that 5 tuplet again. So enter the 16th note, Option 9. There's an option here called Save as Default Simple Entry Tuplet Definition. Now if I select that, all right, we're going to define this first, right? We want 5 use current in the space of 4 use current, in this case 16th notes. Save as default, click OK. The first thing it's going to do is create that tuplet for me like I want. But then the next time I enter a tuplet using just the 9 key, so I don't have to do Option 9 or anything, just press 9 and it creates that 5 tuplet, right? So what I've done is I've redefined the default tuplet that you use when you press the 9 key, right? That's what that checkbox did, and then you can create, you know, a whole slew of 5 tuplets in this manner, and you can even combine this with the Command 9 sticky tuplet version, and now we can just enter very quickly using the MIDI keyboard a long slew of 5 tuplets in that manner. Okay, so that's kind of handy. And one more thing that I wanted to show you about this in combining this with the swing rhythm, right? So let's start that swing rhythm again. So start with a quarter note, Option 9 to redefine the tuplet, right? And now it's saying 5 in the space of 4 because that's the last tuplet definition that I created, right? But in this case, we're going to want to do that thing I did before with 3 eighth notes in the space of 2 eighth notes, right? And save as default. Again, click OK, and again it creates that initial tuplet for me, that initial triplet. And then from here, all I have to do is just enter 5, 9, 4, right? Note. And again, if we Command 9 to make the triplet sticky, now we can really make quick work of this tuplet, of this swing rhythm by just pressing 5, note, 4, note, 5, note, 4, note, 5, note, 4, note, 5, note, 4, note, etc. Right? So we can make really quick work of that swing triplet rhythm in that way. All right, and I've just put in a lot of notes. It's getting kind of squeezed here, but that's all right. All right, so I showed you entering notes, I showed you rests and dotted notes, ties, grace notes, and tuplets. So I covered a lot in this video, and hopefully you've learned a lot. The last thing I will say is I would encourage you to look at some of the other videos on how to enter notes without the MIDI keyboard, because there's a couple other functions that are helpful to know about outside of just entering the notes with a keyboard. So if you get a chance, go back and look at some of the other ones as well. All right. So thanks for watching. This has been entering notes with MIDI and laptop, and come back and we'll talk about some more simplifying simple entry.